Excuse me?
What's up?
What song are you listening to?
Oh, I'm actually not listening to a song right now. I'm listening to a podcast. It was created by a website called AutoPod. AutoPod is a website where you can go and type in a prompt and choose a style. And an AI will go and research and create a script based on your prompts and will generate a podcast using AI voices that have emotion and engage in conversation with each other. You want to take a look?
Yeah, of course.
To generate a new episode, we just click the Create New Podcast button in the top right, and we get taken back to the homepage where we can prompt whatever it is we want to generate a podcast about. So in my case, I want to learn more about the history of World War II, and I enter that as a prompt. I could also choose the type of style that I want the podcast to be, that being conversational, educational, entertaining, and professional. I want my podcast to be entertaining, so I'll choose that option. And finally, we select the time duration, that being 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I'd like to generate a 5-minute podcast, so I'm going to leave it as it is. And once we hit the generate button, AutoPod runs to 4 stages automatically, all of which are powered by the Claude Sonnet 4.5 model. First, it validates and cleans up the prompt by asking Claude whether the topic is appropriate and suitable for a podcast. Then, it generates research notes in a structured format so the podcast has actual substance. Using those same notes, it creates a full 3-person script with emotions, line numbers, and a natural, free-flowing conversation, just like a real podcast. And finally, it turns the script into a real audio using AI voices supported by the Cartesia text-to-speech API. Once the podcast has been generated, we get directed back to our library, where we can see that it came up with a podcast with the title, The History of World War II, Origins, Turning Points, and Legacy, and a brief description that describes what the podcast is about. Let's take a listen.
Welcome to AutoPod Podcast.
I'm Leo. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm Brandon, excited to dive into this topic.
And I'm Maya. Today we're exploring the history of World War II, from its origins to its lasting legacy.
So let's start with how this all began. September 1st, 1939, Germany invades Poland, and suddenly we have a world war. But the seeds were planted much earlier. The Treaty of Versailles, after World War I, basically crushed Germany with reparations and territorial losses. That resentment became fuel for extremism.
Right, and by 1933, Adolf Hitler's in power, establishing a totalitarian regime. The economic depression of the 30s created perfect conditions for his rise.
What's fascinating to me is the appeasement policy. Britain and France let Hitler annex Austria in 1938, then Czechoslovakia, without any military response.
I mean, historians debate this constantly.
And if you want to have a listen later, we store your podcast episodes using Supabase, so you can always come back and listen anytime.
AutoPod runs on Node.js, Express, and TypeScript. We built it as a reasoning pipeline where each service outputs clean JSON for the next stage. So Claude Sonnet powers the reasoning through the Anthropic SDK, and we use structured outputs with JSON schemas so every response is predictable. So looking at our main research file, it takes the user's podcast configuration, so the topic, style, duration, and language, and asks Claude for research notes only, not a script. If we scroll down, we can see the structured outputs that guarantee the notes match our format in our prompt, so nothing needs manual cleanup. Now moving on to our script service, it takes the prompt context plus the research notes that we went through and has Claude generate a full 3-speaker script. The schema enforces a clear title, a 1-sentence description, 3 random speakers, and a line-by-line script where each line includes the speaker, text, line number, and an emotion tag, as you can see down here. And finally, moving on to our TTS, it turns the script into an audio. Each speaker maps to a Cartesia Sonic 3 voice. We synthesize audio line by line using the emotion tags, then merge all these segments into one MP3 file. This final file and metadata get stored in Supabase, so the episode appears in the user's dashboard.
In the end, AutoPod isn't just about making podcasts. It's about making learning easier, more accessible, and overall more human.